So this is the second one of our LinkedIn Live sessions on everything you need to know to move abroad. So today I'm joined by Shawn Twomey from TAP, the Andersen Partnership.
Yeah. Hey,
How are you?
Doctor. Well, good.
So
Outside, coffee for the kids.
good stuff. Myself and Shawn go way back. We worked together 11 years ago.
No, 2014.
You were
Nine.
2014. Okay, 9 years ago. So I was coming to the tail end of my time in Robert Walters, and you landed like a Tasmanian devil, ready to take over everything.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so anybody listening today, what we're going to cover is going to talk a little bit about Shawn's background, the company that he works with, but we're going to talk about the different cities in Australia, the process that it takes to get from the UK and Ireland or further afield and into Australia in working and what that looks like. We'll talk about the visa stuff that you need to know and whether or not you qualify. We will go through some of the finance stuff in terms of the money you can make, the life that you can live. And then we'll probably do a wee bit of Q&A as well. We've had a few questions come in before. So where do we start with this? Firstly, what's this? You're selling the dream here. You're out the back of the house. It's a nice balmy evening. Where are you based now, Shawn?
I'm in WA at the moment in the house, so in Perth. So I think it's a bit chilly, hence the jump out. It's a little bit windy. It's in the evening, but it's about 22 degrees. So it's actually some of my favourite time of the year in Perth, spring and autumn. You'll know yourself from your days in WA. It's not too cold. It's not too warm. It's just nice.
Is it spring or autumn?
Winter, actually, probably. I think already. I think we've gone past autumn. I think we're in.
Sean's too busy to know which season he's in right now.
It's getting colder. That's all I know.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit in your own journey. When you were sitting in the UK, you're 10 years now. Is that right? 10 years in Australia?
Yeah, it'll be coming up to about 10 in Oz. Yeah, 9 or 10. Yep.
So you're sitting in the UK. You've got a good job. You're making money. You're in Birmingham, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Great place to move people out of.
Yeah.
Great track record. Great Brummie recruiters everywhere. Everywhere. How did that move come about for you all the way back then?
Yeah, very simple whistle-stop tour. GFC made everyone think about a few things lifestyle-wise, a little bit like maybe COVID has done to a few individuals. We came out the other side of it. I did a bit of traveling and then came back to Birmingham, and the travel sort of opened our eyes to living in other locations. And then just randomly, I think we talked about it on the podcast, a good friend of mine, ex-colleague who'd moved to Sydney, just messaged me out of the blue one day and just sort of said he thought of Sydney. At that point, I said no, because I didn't believe we were moving to Sydney. And then about 2 months later, I mentioned it to my wife-to-be, who told me we were moving to Australia. So, so looked into it, met a few recruitment consultancies, and we thought Sydney, as most people do. I think most people from the UK and Ireland think Sydney or Melbourne. But Perth got recommended to us. The boom was happening. The age we were at, the lifestyle we wanted, and as we researched it, Perth looked like the right place. Spoke to a couple of rec-to-recs and got a gig with Robert Walters.
So when you say the age you were at, I think it's fair to say you were older than most recruiters who move over.
Yeah, we were 32. Yeah, I think 32 when we moved across. Yeah, and we were just about to get married as well. So we got married in the August and moved in the Jan. And so we were looking for somewhere where, it was fun. But the lifestyle was we were definitely going to have a family. We were going to settle down. And that's probably where Perth just was more attractive to us than say, Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah. And it's an interesting one. I always get asked about Sydney, but never Perth, even though that's where I work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing, we're obviously talking to people through you, but obviously doing some headhunting with recruiters out of the UK and Ireland myself at the moment. And it's amazing. You go into these conversations, we've got an office in New Zealand, and it's amazing how no one ever thinks of New Zealand. They just think of Australia as well. And you sit down with them and you're thinking, so which city? And it's Sydney, Melbourne. No one thinks of Brisbane, no one thinks of Perth. And my opinion's a very simple one. I think every city in Australia is awesome. But they're all different. So it does depend on what you're looking for, age, what you want to get out of the move. But I think as UK and Irish recruiters, we generally gravitate naturally to those two cities.
Yeah, it definitely is Sydney driven at the moment. But let's start with Perth, because it doesn't get enough limelight, and you're there.
No, right. Yeah.
What would you say if anybody was to ask you to describe Perth to a recruiter who wanted to come over, what would you say?
Yeah. Great lifestyle, great market, good work-life balance, good rentability. So again, cost of living is really good. Still a really good expat community, obviously driven by resources, but just a really cool place to do business, in my opinion. It's big enough where there's lots going on, but it's small enough where you can actually make a name for yourself if you do a lot of the right things.
Okay, so some of the terminology, right? You're throwing Australian terminology. GFC, that was the crash, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is resources. What does that mean?
Mining and oil and gas. So I moved after the boom. You'd have been here for it. Dalta, as I understand it, there was 8 to 10 of the world's biggest projects around oil and gas. So Chevron, Woodside, who's an Australian company, were here building big oil and gas projects, and then mining, iron ore, gold are huge. WA is a massive place. Yeah. And so I think some of the world's largest mines and oil and gas projects are based in WA, which then obviously impacts Perth.
I caught the tail end of it, but it was making money for fun then. And it's not just the recruitment that happens for engineers to go work on a mine site. It's all the services that sit around it. And is that what you guys said?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're white collar corporate. So we don't do a huge amount of FIFO. So, everything we do is, accounting and finance, business support, professional services, some legal and insurance. So but the market's still driven by those bigger businesses. So they need back office functions, they need operational teams, and then that bleeds through to those people needing services like accountants, like lawyers. So the town does run off resources generally, but thankfully at the moment it's back to pretty much boom, as I think most places are, and it's just a really good place to do business. Brilliant.
And I'm going to jump into what that means from a recruitment standpoint, but more generally in Australia. But let's jump on to Brisbane. Is Brisbane similar? Is there, how would you describe it?
Yeah, Brisbane's bigger actually. So Brisbane is Perth, albeit I think Perth punches above its weight because of the resources sector. But if you look at how Australia often views itself, and having lived in Sydney for a while, you often find people in Perth, in the nicest sense, I mean this politely, have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, thinking that the rest of Australia forgets about them a little bit. And if I'm honest, it's a bit true. They tend to focus on, if you listen to the news over there, it's Sydney, it's Melbourne, it's Brisbane. So Brisbane could be right in saying, must be the third largest city. Queensland and Brisbane have a much deeper financial services, insurance market there as well. Not as big as Sydney and Melbourne, but it still has some mining and it still has some resources, but it's much more of a corporate city market, like Sydney and Melbourne, as opposed to being driven more by resources like Perth.
And then if we jump into the Melbourne market, my impressions are that it's a bit more open, but it's not like a London. There's a bit of an old boys network there. It takes a little while to get into it. How have you guys found it?
Yeah, look, I think very true. I think as you get sort of into the bigger areas, I think definitely Melbourne and Sydney are probably closer to UK markets. They're probably not as MSP or RPO driven as, say, London, so you can still get in. There is still a number of MSPs, RPOs on site. Melbourne is probably, certainly from our space, is probably driven much more retail, FMCG, and with some super and some financial services, whereas Sydney tends to be a bit more financial services and property in terms of the industries that drive it.
Which is your favorite?
Oh, man, it's a good question. I'm in Perth. I love Perth. I did really enjoy Sydney, but I'm going to have to go WA. It's probably, I just love it. I think, like I said at the start, if you pick the right place, there's not every place is great. So Brisbane, great market, good climate. Queensland's an awesome place to go. Very much a European city, in my opinion. It's got the river, and it's a really cool place to live. Decent cost of living, but it's not that close to a beach. Like the nearest beach is the Gold Coast. Sydney is Sydney. I was there this week, coming in on the ferry, Opera House, and the bridge. Nightlife's brilliant. Great beaches, just a fantastic buzz. But the cost of living's a lot higher. Rent's big. You've got to be prepared that the rental market over there is comparable to like a London. And then Melbourne, all the sporting arrangements, the nightlife is probably the best in Australia. And the rental cost of living isn't like Sydney, but is probably second in the rest of Australia. So it really depends on what you want to do.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more on the recruitment side of it.
Yeah.
What would you say would be good billings for the Australian market, for what you look for?
In terms of English conversion, or in terms of when they're in Australia?
Give what you expect in Australian dollars from somebody who's come over with experience.
Look, I think, and it's probably changed a little bit recently, but if you're looking at, as the market's got better, but I think anyone that's coming through would want to be pushing at least to about a 30K per month average. We always look at 100K quarters, which is a 400K a year. So if you can get close to doing anything between about 350 and 400, I'd say you're doing well, and you'll be making good money. If you're in a good business, you'll be making very good money to take home. There are billers in Australia doing well into the millions, certainly at the moment. And, I know there's businesses out there where 500K would be their average billings, and would be coming up. But I'd say if you were just saying, look at general, if you were coming across as a recruiter now, you should, with experience, you should hopefully starting to be putting a 3 in front of your billings for certainly your first and second.
I'm having a bit of a BBC moment here. Do you remember when the kid came into the thing? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just don't.
My dog decided to come into the room there. I don't know if you heard the pitter patter. Thankfully, the children are in nursery. So
there you go. I've got Thomas the Tank Engine, I think, which are occupying mine at the moment.
Oh God. We're moving into our new office, so we're here in Gibraltar now, and we got an office, but it smelled of fried chicken. So,
any reason? Your fried chicken place?
There was a takeaway beneath it, and then Gibraltar's real small, so you have the airport as well, right? So the walls were shaking and stuff. So anyway, we got a nice office, but it's getting fitted out. So here we are. So if I'm, what type of profile do you guys go for? Like, how much experience do I need to get into Australia now, and what's the ideal?
Yeah, look. So if you just take it from because again, it's easy for me to talk from a TAP perspective, but again, just trying to get a bit of a general overview of the market from what we see. Look, if you look from a pure visa perspective, if you want to be sponsored on a 482 visa, which is the business sponsorship visa, the minimum experience is 2 years with a degree and 5 years without a degree. Now, there is a training visa that is available to certain companies that we do offer, and that's a minimum of a year's experience, but no more than 2. And you don't have to come out and get sponsored straight away. So the Australian government, up until the end of this December, what they've done is they've said anybody who comes on a working holiday visa can now work for the same company for the first year of their stay in Australia. which is changed from 6 months, which is great. So if you only had a year's experience and you had a degree, you could come out on your working holiday visa, do the first year with the company, and then get sponsored. So, we're, in terms of profile, you work with us and you work with lots of other people. For us, it's really about, like everybody, the right competencies, the right attitude, some experience. But we would look at anyone probably with a year's plus.
If they had
a degree. That's it. We can sponsor people on the training visa without the degree, but the problem is what happens at the end of that, because you have to take yourself over the 5 years. There are also regional visas available, and in Perth, in Adelaide, and in basically anywhere other than Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, which you can utilise as well, but with the same stipulation.
Can you give us some success stories of some of the guys in your team that moved over from the UK?
Yeah, myself. Let's go. We've got a bunch. The biggest biller in the company is a chap in Perth right now, Aaron Britton. Albeit he came out from the UK and worked in real estate actually to start with. Chris McShane, one of my other directors, came out from the UK. He's been with me 5-6 years. Mitch, number of years. We've got Aoife, who worked for our sister company Urku in Ireland. She came out about 2.5-3 years ago.
You stole her off Dara, did you?
I did. Well, I tried to steal a few more, but it just didn't work out. So there we go. But no, Aoife came out from Ireland to see how we go. And then actually, interestingly, because of COVID, there's a bit of a, the last 2.5 years, we've not been able to bring people across. We've hired some English and Irish people who were doing, worked in travel. So we got some really good people in Sydney who work for like Peter Pan's Flight Centre. We've done that. But right now we've hired a lot of Aussies, which has been great. Aussie graduates, a number of people out of PT, gym sales, that type of stuff have come through. But, there's no secret that, UK and Irish recruiters, the recruitment market in Australia, God knows what the figures are, but I'd say it's still got to be about 60 or 70% populated with.
And look, it'll go up again. If I could speak a little bit to the demand I'm seeing, I've never seen it like this. It's absolutely crazy, and it's because Australia's been starved. So you think of it like 2 years with no recruiters going there, and then you have the natural attrition of a tight market and people who normally move to internal recruitment anyway. So you've had really profitable businesses like yourself, whose headcount has gone from a massive headcount down to like a much smaller headcount. But the profitability and the ambition is still there. It's just the people haven't been put in. And I see this across the board. So everybody's got money to spend. They're in a good market. They just need the people to help the growth. And never seen it all happen like that at the same time. And I've never seen fight for talent. I'm seeing a 20% increase in salaries. I'm seeing but salaries aside, one of the interesting things that you pioneered was the 4-day work week. How did you get that past your boss?
It was actually the boss's idea. That's how I got it past him. If it's his idea, it's an easy negotiation. But do you know what we talked about? And that's actually a really good thing. A lot of the what COVID has done, and I'm sure it's the same in the UK and Ireland, but the actual flexibility options in Australia right now across all recruitment agencies are really good. There's a lot that's been offered around flexibility. A few recruitment agencies in Australia and New Zealand are offering the 4-day work week as well as ourselves, which we love. Again, it's just about, you talk about it's a competitive market. You want to hold on to the best people. You want to be able to attract people, and you want to be able to ensure that you're giving your team and the people who work for you the best chance of avoiding burnout. And for us, the 4-day work week was that. And again, we live in Australia, and as we talked about, we've got a lot of English and Irish. So, you want to go and enjoy the beach on a Friday. So
you definitely do. I think I don't want to oversell that. There's an unbelievable, recruitment's tough, and I didn't see the beach a lot. It was I was working hard Monday to Friday, then
Hungover Saturday.
like,
Yeah, hungover Saturday.
dragged to a beach on Saturday, hungover by my missus. But it's definitely, if you go there, you have to be prepared to work, and you really need to earn your stripes. With one of the questions that was asked in the thing before is, how do you choose the recruitment firm? Like, do you go for an established one, or do you go for a smaller one? I give the same advice all the time. I say, who's the most impressive person you've met in the process? Do they have the relationships, and can they give you that start and structure to help you get there? Because in my 100%. Experience in Australia, it doesn't matter if you're a giant company or a small company. What you don't want to be doing is setting up a desk from scratch for somebody. You need the leader to be able to go meet that person, because it's a much more relationship-driven market than a product-driven market. Is that fair?
That's correct. Yeah. Can you still hear me, Dalton?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, sorry, my thing's talking. No, 100%. I think, look, the advice is exactly what you said. It's not all, I think you're right. You don't want to be going sitting down trying to build a desk. I think that's a bit scary, for someone who's not established. I think you need some support. You need some help. But then whether you go big corporate or, medium-sized growth or whatever it looks like, your point's exactly right. You're going to have to judge it as well as you can.
Oh, all right. Shawn has just dropped out. Right. Okay. So I think we've got quite a bit covered here. I'll get him on to do part 2 in a few weeks' time, and I've got some other amazing guests lined up. Just 1 second. Here he is, and he's back.
You see me? Ah, here we go.
I was just about to close you off there.
They're obviously streaming something that's taking up a lot of my data on Netflix. The kids, I was about to have to turn off Thomas the Tank. Hey mate, I don't know where you lost me, but really long story short, your advice is right. I think whoever's moving across to Australia, make sure you ask some real hard questions through the interview process. Don't get dazzled by the sell. Make sure whoever you meet with gets you to meet some of the team as well. Make sure you meet some of the individuals you're going to be working with. And your point's right. And then it's really just going to have to be a gut feel who you connect with. There are a load of brilliant recruitment agencies in Australia, and there is no right or wrong answer in regards to that. You've just got to pick and choose what will work for you.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, look, let's try this again in a few months' time, and when we get a few more questions in. Thanks so much for coming on. I think we've got loads of advice on choosing an agency, on the different regions. The process, I think we could probably just jump into quickly. 3-4 stage interview process. Usually they'll come on a working holiday visa and then go over.
Yeah, I'd say, look, one bit of advice I'd give you, if you've got access to a working holiday visa, use it. The advice we get from our immigration agents is maximize every visa that you have. So don't necessarily rush to get the business visa. If you can go for a year, go for the year, then get the 2 years, then get the further 2. Because once you've gone from one visa, you can never go back.
So a caveat to that is, if you have kids, you have to go. You can't go on the working holiday visa.
You have to go and get some. You have to go get some. Absolutely. So I guess we're pitching this more, thinking of people coming across either on their own as a couple. Absolutely. If you move in a family, you can get pre-sponsored before you come. What
I wouldn't give to have a time machine to go back to that. Not that I don't love my kids and my life here, but that life of being young and arriving in Perth and getting into recruitment, and like the buzz of like working hard, making money, having weekends in Bali, playing football with loads of other expats, something happening all the time, and just great food, great weather. Like it's a wonderful life for somebody if they can make it happen.
I think the expat lifestyle is something, and I'm sure it might be the same in the US and in Dubai, but when you move across as an expat, you do forge friendships a lot stronger. And that's why it's so important actually to choose the right company, because I think you'll testify to this. You probably make stronger friendships with your work colleagues as an expat than you maybe did back home. And it really does become a really strong social network, and it's a lot of fun.
And there's a reason for that, and it's a really interesting point. It's because if you're in, I was talking to somebody who was saying he struggles to get people from Warrington to move to Sydney, because people get so ingrained in their little relationships.
Absolutely.
So they work with their people, and then they go and they have their other friends, and then their childhood friends. When you move to Australia, you leave all that behind. So your friends in the office become your friends at the weekend. So whoever you get that fight. So if you're going into interview and you're like, let's say you're a 25-year-old guy and you go in and everybody else is a 35 to 45-year-old woman in an office, I would be like, look, you're going to go into an office where their friends are going to be based around kids and all of that side of things. You need to go into a place where you can just make friends, feel comfortable, concentrate on work, be on the same vibe as everybody else. And that's what happened to me. I was 27 and you were old.
Thanks, mate.
At 32,
wasn't that? But I did feel old.
The average age was 26, 25, right? So I was on the older side at 27, and then but I think there's still that mid to late 20s, early 30s vibe, and if you can just get in a room where you're around like-minded people, working hard, having fun, best thing you can possibly do.
And your point is exactly right. It's about trying to get yourself in the right frame of mind, the right positivity, so that you do maximize work. So we know, you're there to make money, you're there to build your career, and you can in Australia. It's a great market. But you're right, if you can do it with people that you enjoy time with, you do need to appreciate that. It's a little bit like going to uni. I sometimes think, like you say, you leave sort of all your friends behind, you get all that. You're all in the same place, and that's what the expat community can give you. I don't think anyone will ever regret making a move abroad in recruitment.
No, I lived back in the UK for 5 years, did the grown-up stuff, and the second I had a chance to get out again, I'm here in Gibraltar. I'm so happy, so happy to be in an expat environment again, and just living in the sunshine. It just makes life so much better. But look, I think we're probably preaching to the converted, talking to each other about this. If anybody has any questions or any follow-up questions, we'll get you back on. We'll have a chat. Maybe the next time you'll be down in the Sydney office.
Maybe, or maybe not, just in my back garden, to see how we're going with a better internet connection.
Lovely. Show us the pool there. Come on, show us the pool.
It doesn't look that good. It needs redoing, actually. It's just about to get. It's about to get drained in a couple of weeks. It's
What's your commute to the office?
Perth's easy, isn't it? It's about 30 minutes just on the train.
Lovely.
I'm just north, so it's really easy.
And what about to get to the beach?
10 minutes max. 10 minutes max.
10 minutes max.
It's not walking distance. Not walking distance, but Perth probably does. Oh, I'm going to get killed for this. Perth probably does have the best beaches in Australia. I think it might be. Oh, it's dangerous. I know. Sydney has some nice ones. I like them because they're not as busy.
Bondi's pretty amazing, though, right?
Yeah, it is. See, I like the beaches. I was up near Manly and Freshwater in Sydney, and they are pretty spectacular. But there's just not as many people here.
Yeah. All right, pal. Let's go.
All right.
I could just talk all day about this. I'll just end up moving back to Australia.
To see how we go. Thanks for the time, mate.
Good luck.
See you, mate. Bye.
All right. Just before we finish off, thanks everybody for listening, watching. And if you've any questions about moving to Australia, hit me up. If you've registered as one of the people who are interested in, we will send you our guide on moving to Australia. We do a few things. We are a rec-to-rec. We have an advisory business, do lots of things to help recruitment founders scale. At present, we've got 70 interviews happening for people moving to Australia across Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Perth. And the focus, as Shawn said, is recruiters with 2 years experience and a degree, 4 years without. If you don't fit that criteria, hit me up. There's some workarounds. Love to have a chat with you. We have every connection that you need to make, and my team will make the process as easy as possible. We've been doing this for years. We've done it ourselves. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope it's informative. We've loads more information to give you. Don't be afraid to hit me up. I'm always available for a chat. Take care.